Hello, hello, hello. I am back with another part to my ongoing series. And like I said, after talking about the subconscious and the conscious mind, the next step to that is honestly talking about the internal and external reality worlds, planes, whatever. Um, but essentially, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the internal and external realities. I'm going to be talking about the relationship between them, as well as certain loops and how to interrupt the loops between external and external worlds, and also just highlight the internal world. That's what I'll be talking about in this video. Let's get straight into it. Okay. So there's two really specific ways that I want to explain the relationship between our internal and our external worlds. First is more of like a perspective kind of way. In perspective, given the circumstances that someone is sad, right? They're sad and they've just experienced a loss. That person would then perceive their external world in that same manner. And so essentially, because of their internal state of being sad and experiencing loss, it is then projected into their external world and it begins to shape it. The fact that we as human beings, we have the power to shape our physical reality, to bring these things to life. There was an experiment done, as many people probably already know, that when we look at something, the entire makeup of it, the matter, changes when we perceive it. And the same goes for, in that experiment, an object. The same goes for any and everything else in this world. When we perceive things, it gives it life. And so the example I like to use for that scientifically is like, something that I cannot see right now, it technically does not exist. I cannot see my bed in the other room. It technically does not exist right now. And so that is very reassuring as well, to the fact that we as human beings, we hold the power. Not to say we God and we above every and every motherfucking thing, but we do hold that power here on this earth. So that is just in a nutshell how the relationship between our internal and external worlds can look like and how they interact. Of course, there's so many other ways in this world that they interact, but I feel like those are really like some good ways to look at it. Those are the ways that I love looking at it. But now that we have a better idea on the relationship between internal and external worlds that exist, I want to discuss the loops that occur. So I think it's very easy for us to experience things in our external world and keep our focus stuck on that, like this thing happened, and keep our attention there rather than allowing circumstances and situations to bring us back to what really matters internally, the thing that is shaping all of it to begin with. And I really want to discuss some of the things, the experiences that I have gone through that really highlight this relationship and highlight ways that you can actually reel these circumstances that are happening externally, reel it in, and allow your attention, your focus to look inward instead of blaming the world, instead of settling with this external reality that you don't really want to experience. You just, instead of like fixating and fixing the external world to be this certain way, I really want to highlight these experiences that I've gone through to highlight that we, for one, do have the power to shift things around and just exactly how to do that. So the first experience I want to talk about, it began a few months ago. So a few months ago when I had first got into my apartment, you know, I was really ready to move on to the next thing because, like, yeah, like, this is not the end goal, you know what I'm saying? So much more I want to do. And, like, when I first got in, that was where my attention was. And for several reasons, I wasn't yet ready to actually begin taking action, whether if that's active or inactive action, whether if that's just sitting reflecting, whether if that's me getting up and go getting it. Like, I just was not ready. And then a few weeks later, you know, I'm like, all right, let me try to get some manifestation techniques going, you know, tap into my vision and do those sorts of things in order to get that ball rolling. But even just the thought, and I mean, even just the thought of doing that felt like too much. It felt like too much. And so I never did anything at those points in times. And then moving more into the present moment, like now, since getting out of a relationship, I really needed something to put my focus to. It's like that's the type of thing. Like, I gotta start doing something because I don't want to focus on the past. I don't want to be there, you know. But I was finding it so hard to, like, pick up the habits, pick up the things that I needed to do in order to move into that space. And it's so simple, but it really took some experience. And I've also been in this space before where, honestly, all that I needed was to remove certain things out of my life. And so essentially in this situation, there was something internally taking place. Like I said, I couldn't even bear the thought of going and trying to manifest. And I didn't fully understand it at that point in time, but it was truly because it was already too much on my plate. You know what I'm saying? I already had all these distractions, these relationships that weren't fulfilling me, taking up space in my reality. And so, once I come to realize that I really just needed to remove a lot of things out of my life in order to make space for this path that I'm wanting to go down, it really made me realize that relationship that's occurring, you know, first internally letting me know that maybe it's too much. And then once I began to move things out of my external reality, you know, I wasn't shifting internally. I wasn't telling myself, like, okay, we're going to have some different mindset, or I'm just going to do something different. Even my execution was not in play. I said, things have to go. So I threw away certain things. Not only did I throw away certain things, the biggest thing I did was remove a lot of things off of my phone. That being social media, that being pictures, everything. I had to remove social media because it was very distracting, and really just putting me off task from what I really need to be focused on right now, you know. And that goes into a whole nother conversation, you know. Essentially, in me removing social media, it's like, you know, I'm left with the question, what can I do with my time? You know, my thumb might be still going to TikTok, but TikTok not there no more. So now I got to find something else to fill that time. And with me already having my intention set and knowing what direction I want to go in, it's like, okay, how can I use this time to be productive? So and so and so and so. But my main point being that, like I said, internally, that relationship between the internal and external worlds at play show up in these circumstances because internally I was shown that there was a lot going on my plate. Externally, I began to take action to remove things, and therefore I could begin to shift internally. I can begin to shift, and I can now tap into my vision work, tap into my manifestation techniques, and begin pursuing that path the way I've been wanting to. So yeah, there's that. I wanted to get that first example out. And my second example looks a lot different. Before I move on into the second circumstances, I feel like in that circumstance that I just got done speaking on, I really feel like, in a nutshell, what took place in that situation was I no longer wanted to be distracted. I no longer wanted to fill my time, fill my space, pour my energy into things that aren't fulfilling, you know? And so I released relationships. I released social media and ties with anything and everything that just is not fulfilling. It's not placing me in the position that I really want to be in. And it really started with removing those things. Sometimes you got to counteract things externally, and then sometimes things need to be counteracted internally, which I will get into. So in my second set of circumstances, so in my second set of circumstances, I was in a situation where someone was unreasonably rude to me, right? I've dealt with rude people. I mean, I work a job and I have worked jobs in the past, and people are rude. You know what I'm saying? It be for a reason, though. It be for a reason. So I never really was too pent up on those situations or anything like that. And I'll be honest, I'll be completely honest. I feel like there may have been a few situations where people have been unreasonably rude to me, but for one, it was like in a small, subtle manner, you know what I mean? And two, I just don't really pick up on those things, and I don't really give a fuck enough to pick up on them, you know what I mean? But in this situation, it was completely different. Like, this person was blatantly speaking to me and being rude for no reason, right? And so after this experience, like, I was just sitting and I processed it a little bit, and it just made me so sad. Like, it made me so sad. I was crying. Yes, I cried. And it's so weird because, like, I've always been the type of person, like, you know, if you're not my family or someone I really care about, you can't really, you know what I'm saying? You can't faze me like that. But that person actually fazed me. And, you know, I was just crying while I'm processing. I'm just like, you know, like, who treats someone like that? Like, why would you say that? Why would you do that? You know, and really crying it out. And in that, I was initially focused on the external part of it. I was focused on what this person said, what this person did, and everything in between. And then at some point, you know, it really got to a point where I was just like, you know, I would never treat anyone like that. And from there, it started to turn inward. And I'm just like, damn, like, how could someone be so rude like that? Like, I would never do that. That doesn't align with me or my morals. And then the more I started to bring my attention inward, I realized, like, of course, that person is not obligated whatsoever to be me, to have the morals that I have and have the values that I have and be the kind, genuine person that I am. They're not obligated to do that or be that whatsoever. But in that moment, I realized how much of a treasure, how much beauty is in me, because that's not everywhere. I've dealt with genuine, kind people, and that is nice and that is lovely. But to know that there are people who are just rude out in the world, it really brought me back to myself, and it made me cherish myself, cherish my morals, cherish my values, cherish the person that I am on a much deeper level. And then in return, I was also able to really cherish the people that I have come in contact with who are kind to me and who are just very genuine and things of that nature. I was able to cherish those experiences even more. And essentially, this experience all was because I was able to bring my attention inward. Inward. And now that I'm looking at my past experience, I mean, maybe it's the same thing. maybe it's the same exact thing, even though I counteracted, you know, the situation externally, removing things externally. It was all brought into my attention. How? Internally. Internally, things felt heavy. Internally, I didn't feel right to do certain things that I had wanted to do. Internally, I wasn't able to pick up the habits that was necessary to pursue the path. And that let me know that something wasn't right. That let me know that something needed changing. And this really all leads me to my last point. Surprisingly, I didn't really mean for it to go there, but internally, not only do we have so much power, but internally, everything that's held internally within us is the key. I don't know what other way to really phrase that, you know. It's the key to changing the world around us. It's the key to fulfilling our goals. It's the key to creating a lifestyle that fulfills us. Looking within, whether that be thoughts, ideas, feelings, thought patterns, concepts, beliefs, all of those things are really what point us to molding the world around us, the experience that we're having, you know. I feel like, and I think it's such a beautiful thing that we have that power to create, to form and mold the world around us, you know. But that is all for internal and external. Such a beautiful relationship between the two. But essentially, it's all one thing. I love you so, so much. Thank you so much for listening. And until next time.